Welcome to Founders Feature, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Zach Young, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're joined by Jodie Sherwin Hill, CEO of Custodians of Change, an organization dedicated to empowering leaders and teams to navigate transformation with clarity, resilience, and impact. Jody and her team use proven frameworks and coaching techniques to turn change into opportunity, helping businesses systemize success while fostering human potential and sustainable growth. With a global perspective and a mission to create balanced wealth through leadership and lifelong learning, Jody inspires proactive leadership that drives both performance and lasting personal growth. Jody, a very warm welcome to Founders Feature.
Wow, that was a big intro. Thank you, Zach. Great to be here.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great episode. A lot to dive into here. I do like to start with your background, though. So before Custodians of Change, can you tell us what were you doing previously and what was really your inspiration for getting into this space?
Yeah, so my inspiration, I think, started as a very young woman. I grew up on a farm. So with my dad, which was amazing, in rural New South Wales in Australia. And that was a lot of hard work. And I saw that a couple of things from that. I said, first of all, that hard work doesn't always get results that you're looking for, especially when there's external elements that are out of your control that come in the way. And so that was like what farming is all about, right? Like really understanding that you're not in control of everything. And I think that was really amazing and horrible at the same time, that your hard work doesn't get the results. And the second part of it was my dad he had two loves. He was very good at sport. He was a teacher. And I guess that was a really interesting part because he used to quiz me all the time. And so I was high level sports, which obviously gave me that kind of understanding about the body. But my dad was really interested in the mind and human behavior as well. And so he used to quiz me about understanding why people get depressed and why things happen. So that childhood kind of geared me up. And then I went into teaching, actually, because, it makes sense. It was really inspiring. And so I became a teacher, a secondary high school teacher, PE. And I think that has been a really important part of what leads to where I am today, because with the teaching, I learned how to do a lot of coaching. So we had to do a lot of coaching, sports coaching in a lot of different areas, but we also had to combine the personal development side and understanding how to grow people. And I was also working with SEN students, which is the special needs students as well. So that was my other part of my teaching career, which was a little bit shorter, only 5 years. And that actually made me understand the importance of talent and finding talent within someone and growing it and what that looks like, because sometimes we focus on the weaknesses, not the strengths. And if you look at sport, you're focusing on your strength to win. And so you're focusing on your strengths in all the parts coming together equal the whole. And so teaching was really good for that. But the biggest part was being able to have fun, because actually if you're having fun and you're loving what you do and you're enjoying what you do, I feel like it just doesn't feel like you're working, and then performance happens. And so after that, I went running in my own businesses, and I realized that I just loved growing people the most. So about 15 years ago, I went into coaching and leadership and helping other people in lots of other businesses to grow. And that's the journey that happened. So I guess it's built on the background of human behavior, having fun and guiding and leading people to work together.
Yeah, I would say quite a natural progression, right? Athletics with yourself, learning from your dad, teaching the youngins. We know the youngins need a lot of teaching these days and back then as well. And then, of course, moving into business as well. So I love that. Let's dive into the business today. Can you walk us through what does working with Jody look like today? Who are you typically working with? Everything like that.
Yeah, so I guess it's pretty much the same as it's always been. The goal's been the same. It's a bottom up and a top down approach. So I work with the executive level, CEOs or business owners. And it's actually a little bit more in the last 5 years with small businesses because there's a lot of parts that they can't get to. They are working in their business. That includes myself. So it's been a big lesson for me in the last 5 years of working in the business, and it's quite hard to get on the business. So I help that CEO to have that breather to be able to think about on the business. So that would be that one. And then I also, at an executive level, more recently work with what I call a 1% woman. So a 1% woman, she could have been a 1% sportswoman. She could have been a 1% financially, like she could be empowered, and the top 1% in her field, or academically, or also in business, in the corporate world. And so I love working with that. And I still have a few 1% men. So that's the one side. And then the bottom is close to my heart. So it really comes back to that childhood. I had a dream. I wondered why African people were so happy. And I went traveling and saw this for myself before I lived in Africa for almost 2 decades. And then what happened was I just wondered why their spirit was so great, but they didn't have a lot. But they had this spirit inside of them. And I wanted to understand why they were happy. They dance in the streets and they do these kind of things. But they still want to provide a life for their families, and they want to do that. So for me, it was about that high potential individual that wants to do something either for their children or their families, and how do I impact the many? And so that works whether it's a corporate business with 10,000 staff, because you can work then from the bottom up and the top down, and the middle knows the most, but you're joining those things together. So a lot of the time things get lost either from the top working their way down, or from the bottom trying to get up to the top. And so if you're able to glue those bits together and impact the many, then I feel like that's success. So that's my whole business model. Yeah.
Very cool. So two separate, I don't want to say sides, but just two different main parts to it, I'll say. We'll
Yeah.
focus on the first part first. I'd love to ask, working with the CEOs, the business owners of these small companies, and you said something that's so important, right? Is a lot of these founders, they're working in the business, not on the business, right?
Yes.
They are business owners, but they really don't own a business. They probably just have a high paying job. It's a very hard problem for a lot of people to solve.
Yes.
And I think part of the issue is that I'm sure you deal with when you're working with your clients is maybe they don't want to step back and hand the reins over to someone else. Are you finding this to be an issue?
Yeah, so obviously it was their dream, right? And when it started out, when they're small, this is what I've picked up, because small business has only become part of my life in the last sort of 5 years. But what I've noticed is they've got this dream, and it's really easy to manage when they're small, and they can basically keep an eye on all the parts. But as they start to scale, which if you want to, you can scale your business. So as you scale and earn more money, the things that you did then and the fact that you could keep an eye on the way everything was done start to fall apart. And then you start to have cracks because you can't get to everything. Yet they still want it to almost be the same, like the same level of perfection or their way because it was their dream and it's the certain way they want to do it. So I think they do have a struggle in stepping back in the sense of basically choosing people to be able to maybe bring their dream into that picture, which is your staff, and actually working out how that new system will look and function so that they're able to scale. So it's not that I think they don't want to step back. I think they do. They just don't know how to do it successfully and still get the results.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the importance of having a team. I believe
Mm.
I saw on your website you do have a staff working with you. Am I right there?
Yes. Yes.
Walk us through your staff, and also how was that process for you of adding people onto the team? Because like you mentioned, maybe people don't know how to do it, or it's scary to do, is to bring someone into your world, into your baby.
Yeah, it's so true, Zach. So for me, it's two types of staff. One is collaborations. So what I do is I don't say that I'm perfect at anything, because otherwise, how do I reflect what I'm asking others to do? So because I'm not perfect at everything, what I do is I say, okay, a financial manager is in a better role than I am, so they're going to come in on this piece. And then it's about the project management part. So it's about having the plan And it's almost, so obviously I've got a track and field background, but so because of that, I like to relate it to you running a relay race and you're actually got to hand the baton over. So you're in the 100 meters, and if you don't hand the baton over, you're going to be in trouble. Number one, you're going to tire out. And secondly, you're actually not going to win. So what happens is you have to know when to hand the baton over. So for me, it was knowing, when do I hand the baton over and when do I take it back again? And or does it get handed to the next person? But how do we make sure that together we still get the result that we're aiming for? So I really think that's about really good project management for me, which I like managing projects anyway and helping. And so it's about that and everyone understanding their role. So that's the first piece. The second piece is the doers that do the things in the background. And that's a little bit trickier. So the people that support what you do or support the parts of your business. So for example, and I found that a little bit harder this time because we went from being face to face where I see everyone every day to having offshores. So that's been an interesting journey because what I realized is you've got different cultures, different time zones, and that can be tiring as well. So the way that I've learned, I wouldn't say I've done this perfectly, and I definitely haven't, because what happened is at one stage I was the one getting tired, and that wasn't a great formula because if the boss burns out, then there's no business. So what happened was I had to work out a way where they could be self-sufficient enough but still feel connected. And so I have to use software for that. So I personally use Monday.com at the moment and a few other pieces of software. And that means I can keep on the pulse and I can see straight away when there's an issue, like there's a block in something that they're doing. And then we're able to fix that.
Just good progress all around. Like you mentioned, it is tough bringing in people, bringing in new systems into the business. But I'm thankfully in this day of technology, there are systems you can use, even if you're on different time zones, things like that. So you're making it work. You're making it work.
Yes, a little bit. Yes.
No, you're making it work. Not a little bit, a
Yeah.
lot.
And I'm seeing, just out of interest, I'm seeing like the fact that I'm learning and I'm making it able to happen. There's a lot of direction at the beginning, but what's happening is a lot of my small business clients are now also embracing it. So it's almost like you have to understand the formula. You have to understand the problems that come because there's a lot of misunderstandings with culture. Sometimes there's a Western lens and we want boundaries on it. Whereas in Eastern culture or African culture, there's a real mix of personal and professional blend. And things like we eat dinner at the table, like in Filipino, it can have 100 different meanings depending on the environment, who they're around, the tones, the things like this. So it's about how do we make sure that cultural element gives us more. So I think I've been learning about that, and that's really helped for my smaller business clients to embrace it as well more quickly.
Absolutely. I think that brings us very well into what I call the second part of the business that you talked about, the African side of the business, working with the companies, the individuals there. Walk us through that part.
Oh, wow. It's just inspiring. So in Africa, I would say you have to be agile, more agile than in Australia, because in Australia it's more middle class, and in Africa there is a dispersed wealth. So what happens is because of that, you have to adapt or you can't survive. So I guess it's I go into the Serengeti and I'm going to walk amongst the lions. I better know what I'm doing to adapt to that environment, or I'm going to get eaten by the lion. I'm going to get taken out. So I think in Africa, it's really inspiring. And the other thing is, because I spent a long time there, I got to travel a lot. And the environment can be a bit tough, but the people are really welcoming. They're open. They want you to learn and understand about their culture. So I learned a lot about Ubuntu philosophy and Ubuntu leadership, and I modeled my approach according to that. And so what happens with Ubuntu is together we are more. We're the sum of all parts. The community works together to actually bring people up. And I love that philosophy in business as well. It's if you see someone and they're not on track or they're not looking great today and they're at your office, go over and check on them just because they're not in your department or you don't know who they are. Like it's your responsibility not to ignore that. And together we help each other to get back on track. So a lot of the philosophy in Africa, I think, is beautiful in the sense of together. And also it's a little bit of servant leadership, which is different, transformational and servant leadership. And so I really love that. But it is hard. Sometimes in Africa, it's also survive or thrive. There's no in between, there's no middle zone. So you're either surviving in your business and you're really pushing hard, and maybe you're not getting paid off certain clients because they've gone under. So there's survival or there's thrival. So there's no in between. So you're sometimes jumping between the two. So that's the hard part of it.
Okay, so you're working with these businesses in Africa. Similar work to the work you're doing with the other companies?
So a little bit different. So it's more around change management, social facilitation with communities. So that was the big part of the work. But then the others, it's still the bottom up, top down, but it was bigger business there. So some corporates, bigger corporates and businesses that, but the lens was the same of how I approached it. I really wanted to bring that African lens in, not just the Western lens, and see how, not to be less, but to combine the two so that it could work for global. So some of these corporates were obviously global. And what that meant was it's bringing that African lens so that they can keep their authenticity in the workplace, and then also having the Western lens so that they can still talk to that model as well. So that work was the same, but the difference was the social facilitation and change management. And that, at the end of the day, it comes down to values. If you want to change something, you better get to know the people. So that work we did was we really spent time preparing before we tried to make change, before we tried to facilitate anything in the social environment on projects. So a lot of people come in and they want to get going because time is money. And the problem with that, like with anything in life, if you don't plan and you don't prepare, we underestimate that. But if we planned, we got to know the people properly, the change was so simple. The training was simple because they were ready, they were engaged, they were ready to activate. So that's quite big work, and we've had some huge success in that area.
Yeah, I know you spent a lot of time there. And
Yeah, I
based
did.
off what you're describing, that's it sounds like boots on the ground work. Am I right there?
Yeah, I went into some pretty interesting places and had some interesting experiences where I was sometimes, maybe I should have thought it through a little more. So I guess I learned to plan better.
Yeah. Good learning
Zach, I'll
lesson.
say that I definitely earned my stripes. And there was a couple of times I was very grateful to get out of those environments and learn from it and do it better the next time.
Hmm.
But I think the reason why I came out unscathed, I will say, there was a few close calls, was because I really cared about the people and understanding what was important to them and what was going on for them. And I think when you really care and take that curiosity element, like Elon Musk talks about the philosophy of curiosity. And so if you stop and really listen to someone and you enter their world, they can really tell that you're really considering what they're saying and you're present with that world. And then if you take that information away and don't rush it, if you take that information away and work out how to connect their world with the world that you're trying to create with the business, then I think that formula was something that I got because of being in Africa. I'm not sure I would have got it here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even though you had some borderline experiences, it's very clear that Africa still has your heart and such a passion.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't go there. It's like you can't put your hand in a pot of glue without some of it sticking, Zach. So,
It's a great saying.
so
I'm keeping that one.
yeah, we take it with us.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Jody, 2026 is slowly but also very quickly approaching. Any
Yes, it is.
specific goals you've set for yourself in the business for next year you're looking to achieve?
Yes, thanks, Zach. And I think we've had a great chat already previously, and I'm really grateful for all the time you gave to me because it really got me thinking. And I was like, I've had this 10-year goal about going online. and mastering buyers, not leads, and mastering buyers and mastering the cold with those buyers. So the goal is to actually finally, after 10 years, get my products online so, that I can scale and help more businesses. So get my frameworks and products out there and master buyers and the cold market, the people I don't know. I'd love to be able to do that.
It's a great goal. Great goal to have, that's for sure. And I'm sure you will accomplish it as well.
Thank
Jody,
you.
where can the listeners find you? Where can they connect with you online?
Yeah, so look out for me on Insta, LinkedIn, all the social platforms, but also you can find us on our website, our global website, which is custodiansofchange.com. And obviously in Australia, I've got the .com.au, like custodianschange.com.au, so you can find us there. And also look out for our little funnels and I send lots of beautiful little things that you as an individual can use to just have personal growth in all your areas of life, because I'm also a family woman and I love my children and my husband. And if you want to achieve in those areas, I've also got tidbits. I just love helping in general.
We all have room for growth. That is for sure. Across social media, you said LinkedIn, Instagram, I believe. Is it Jodie Sherwin Hill? Is that how we can find you?
Jodie S. Hill or Custodians of Change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Jody,
Yeah.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Zach.
Absolutely. And that will wrap up another inspiring episode of the Founders Feature. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go and connect with Jody across all of her social media and website. All of those links will be in the show notes and description down below. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're looking to scale your business, and you really want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with our team and discover how we went from 0 to 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.